Hey guys, welcome back to another Battlefield 6 video. Yesterday night or yesterday evening, the last EA earnings call was held, and as usual they also talked about Battlefield, and I've already said it in yesterday's video that we might get some more details about maybe a possible release of the game or a reveal, and yeah, we actually got some info about that. So we're gonna go through everything that was said during this earnings call, starting right here pretty much at the beginning where they say in fiscal year 2026 we are launching two of our most iconic franchises, Skate and Battlefield. So Battlefield is still confirmed that it is on track for a release in fiscal year 2026. Now, if you're wondering why we're talking about fiscal year 2026 while we are actually in calendar year 2025, well, this is because the fiscal year does not necessarily align with the calendar year. So for EA, the fiscal year starts in April and ends in March. So the fiscal year 2025 had ended in March or at the end of March 2025. And now in April they have started fiscal year 2026, which will run until the end of March 2026. So within this time frame, Battlefield is set for release, but they're gonna get a bit more into detail later. But first of all, we have a lot of marketing talk. So right here, EA's CEO Andrew Wilson says, turning to Battlefield, we're taking a modern player-first approach to building, testing, and marketing this next-level experience. Through Battlefield Labs, the biggest playtesting initiative in franchise history, we're engaging players earlier and more meaningful than ever before, testing its scale and validating core gameplay experiences to deliver something truly special for our players. Through our play sessions with a core group of Battlefield players across Europe and North America, we've completed thousands of hours of gameplay and the response has far exceeded expectations. So that's a lot of marketing talk right here that is aiming towards investors to convince them to invest more money into the company. So that's all of the buzzwords that we had heard before: biggest in the franchise and next level and whatnot. And moving on, there's actually an interesting number right here because they're saying that over 600,000 players have signed up for Battlefield Labs to date. Then based on this incredible global demand, we're expanding Labs by inviting more players across Europe and North America, and will begin to include Asia. That's what we had heard yesterday already in the latest development update. If you haven't seen this yet, you can check out the video that I made yesterday in the info box. So Battlefield Labs will be expanded and they will invite a lot more players during the summer. We remain firmly on track for a fiscal year 26 release with a major global reveal later this summer. And I think this is the most interesting part. So first of all, we are still on track for this release, like I had said before, but we will see a global reveal later this summer. And I think this has been the case for all former Battlefield games as well. If I remember correctly, Battlefield 2042 was revealed during, I think it was still E3 back then in 2021, and Battlefield 5 was also revealed, I think it was even in May, so it was a bit earlier. But during summer could also mean that they will reveal it either during the Xbox showcase or during the Summer Games Fest, which is basically the spiritual successor of the E3. So I would think that we will see the reveal of the next Battlefield game around this date. So this should be, I think, in June, at some point in early June. Also, later on, they're writing that they expect some of the headwinds, in addition to challenging year-over-year comparisons, to also weigh on Q2, so the second quarter of this fiscal year, with growth accelerating in the back half of the year, driven by the typical seasonality of our esports franchises as well as our anticipated Battlefield launch. So they're talking about the back half of the year. Not sure if this is the calendar year or the fiscal year here, but I'm thinking they're talking the fiscal year. So the back half is very likely the holiday season of 2025. So it's very likely that we can expect the launch of Battlefield 6 around October or November 2025. And then moving on, we have an interesting question specifically targeted towards the delay of GTA 6, because they're saying that now that the big major expected release has moved out of fiscal year 2026 in the industry, I guess, how do you see the rest of the gaming industry positioning potential releases over the next few months, and how does that impact your thoughts on the competitive landscape for the Battlefield launch window and subsequent performance expectations? And Andrew Wilson says to this, relative to Battlefield, what we have said all along is we've been building towards a window that we thought made the most sense for Battlefield. But we wouldn't launch into a window that we thought truncated the value that we've invested into the franchise or the value that we think our players will derive from it once they jump in and start playing. I think now, without going too far, we believe that window is clearer than it was before, and we feel very good about launching Battlefield in fiscal year 2026. So before GTA 6 was delayed, everyone thought it would launch in late 2025, and apparently they are talking about this time frame, about this release window, and now it's clear, now it's free. And Andrew Wilson had said it before, what he is also pointing out right here, that if this window would have been occupied and would have not given Battlefield the chance to actually shine in the way it should be, then they would have moved the game to another release date. But apparently this is not necessary anymore, because GTA 6 was delayed and now the window is clear for Battlefield to launch in this time frame, which is the holiday season 2025. And at the end, we have another interesting question from another analyst, and this is targeted towards the things that EA has learned from the former Battlefield games. And Andrew Wilson says to this Battlefield, as we've said many times, is the biggest Battlefield we've ever made. So careful, this is a lot of marketing talk right now, but he also uses a few words, that's why I'm bringing this up. He also uses a few words that I can't believe he's using, but we come to this in a second, because he keeps saying, and of course you would expect us to say that we've certainly had the biggest team behind it and we've given them as much time as they need to get to real quality aligned with our core Battlefield community. If you go back through our Battlefield, all the way back to Battlefield 4, I might argue that we've released incredible games every time. They've always been, high quality. And I can't really believe that he says this, because if we're going back from now to Battlefield 4, not all of the games they have released were high quality, especially not when we're talking about Battlefield 2042. Battlefield 1 certainly was high quality, Battlefield 5 already lowered the quality, and 2042, well, let's not talk about it. But if we're saying we're going from 1942 all the way up to Battlefield 4, this statement might be true in this case, that they did indeed deliver high quality, even though you gotta remember that Battlefield 4 had also launched in a terrible state, so this was not a high quality launch as well. But I do understand that this is for the investors and they can't really say that 2042 had launched in a mess. Still, I'm always baffled about this absolute ignorance for reality. And he also keeps saying that we've always worked closely with the community, but we haven't always worked as closely as we should have. So here's some kind of learning there, which is good. We haven't always really worked to help them understand the things that we're building and for us to understand the things that they really want out of a Battlefield, which I think is the most important part, that they did not understand what we actually want from a Battlefield. We know that when we get it right, Battlefield is a giant franchise and often the biggest shooter in the year. And so this time we wanted to ensure that one, our player base and our global community had a better understanding of the things that we were building and how we were building and some of the approaches that we're taking to building, but more importantly, we wanted them to have the ability to feedback on map construction, weapon lineup, progression, all of the things that make Battlefield great at the Battlefield scale. And then he keeps saying that this is the biggest Battlefield ever and that Battlefield Labs was necessary to get this on the way, and that they're overwhelmed by the feedback they're getting from the community, from the playtesters, but also the willingness of the community and of the players to engage with them through this process. and there are hundreds of thousands of people have weighed into this and really given feedback, and that this is gonna help them to tune and balance the game. I'm not quite sure about the hundreds of thousands of people. Maybe he's referring to the number we've heard before, the 600,000 that have signed up to Battlefield Labs, but I doubt that all of them are already playing, because otherwise there wouldn't be any need to expand the playtests, right? It all sounds like they did finally understand how important it is to listen to the community, but we will see when the game launches if they did really understand and if they can really deliver again and live up again to the quality that Battlefield used to have in former games. And yeah, that was everything we can take away from this earnings call so far. Two things I forgot about yesterday in yesterday's video is that we actually got a new map reveal, because with the development update we got two pictures that I'm showing you right here, and according to Battlefield Bulletin, this is a map called Capstone. I don't think we ever seen this in the playtests, but this is obviously what it looks like, so surrounded by mountain area. And yeah, I don't know where this is supposed to be. Someone did write that it might be in Switzerland or the border between Switzerland and Italy, but I don't really know, so I can't really pin it down. If you can, be sure to write in the comments below. But what's actually interesting as well, especially here in the screenshot, is that we can see 3 helicopters in the top right corner. And these helicopters were found to be Eurocopter 665 Tyre. We've known about this before because it was leaked before, but we haven't seen them yet in any screenshots or anything. So here they are, the EC 665 Tyre that is basically confirmed to come to the next Battlefield game now. But yeah, that was everything I have for you today, everything we can take away from the earnings call. So huge announcement coming in summer, very likely in June during Summer Games Fest, or maybe during the Xbox showcase, because I think that's how they did it for Battlefield 2042 back then. And if I'm getting some more leaks or details or whatever, I'm gonna let you know with another video. And if you enjoyed this one here, be sure to drop a like and subscribe, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. I'm the Catwoman, and you are awesome.